everybody. Welcome to the International Space Station. Welcome aboard. I'm very excited to talk to you. I know that you guys have been working on the Spirulina experiment. I know that you have learned a lot about plant biology and how we can make it work for us in space and support space exploration. And I am really, really excited to be able to interact with you and talk to you today. As I said, welcome to the International Space Station.
Thank you, Samantha, for this welcome. And with that, I would like to give the floor to Greece for the first question. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Despina Politi, and my question is, what kind of organisms, photosynthetic, except spirulina or heterotrophs, are candidates to be included in the biological life support systems, for instance, other higher plants, mushrooms and worms?
Hello, Destina. Thanks for your question. I think that plants like lettuce and tomato and even soya beans are good candidates that are seriously taken into consideration. I don't know anything about mushrooms and worms at this point, but the other interesting thing is that we not only work on plants that might give us food one day, but we also do a lot of research on plants that we call model organisms, like Arabidopsis thaliana. It doesn't taste very good, probably not great for food, but it's a very interesting model. We know its genetic makeup very well, and we can study it to understand in general how plants work in weightlessness.
Hello, my name is Nikos Haritakis, and my question is, how do you recycle byproducts of respiration, CO2, ammonia, and acetone of the astronauts in space?
Hello, Nikos, and thank you for your question. It's very interesting. Up here, we actually recycle the products of respiration, and in particular CO2. It is very important. Well, first of all, the first step is that we have to scrub it from the atmosphere. You know, we live up here in this closed environment. We breathe. We do not have, unfortunately, any plants that can, through photosynthesis, scrub that CO2 from the atmosphere like plants do on Earth. So we have to have a system. It's called carbon dioxide removal assembly, or CIDRA. We have a couple here on station that do the job of plants in the lack of plants, and they scrub the CO2 from the atmosphere so that we do not become intoxicated by an excessive CO2. And then that actually goes into a full circle. We also have a Sabatier machine or reactor or process that actually in the end closes the loop, and we are able to recycle all the products of our respiration. So we recycle the CO2 fully.
Hello, Samantha. My name is Augustin Vincent. I'm 12 years old. My question is, do you only eat Earth-propelled dish in the ISS, or do you have some fresh products grown in the station?
Hello, Augustine. Thanks for your question. So mostly we eat known fresh food, of course, because we do not have. We would need huge fridges up here or freezers to conserve to conserve fresh food if it was brought up in that state. So we mostly receive food that is contained in sealed pouches that are thermally stabilized to kill all the microbes, and so they can stay stable for a long time, and we can eat them for a long time. Or sometimes the food is dehydrated. But sometimes, like right now, actually, a vehicle has just arrived to the space station just last week. It's called the Dragon, and in that case, we get a small supply of fresh food, and that's, of course, a big feast, and it's really exciting. But as I said, it's a small supply because we have to be able to eat it quickly before it goes bad, because we do not have a place to keep it cool. And so we got, for example, really delicious apples and peppers and carrots, and so we are enjoying some fresh food right now.
Hello, Samantha. I'm Maya Labibas-Boix. I'm 12 years old, and I want to ask you if spirulina can replace all other types of food.
Maya, thanks for your question. I don't think so. You know, spirulina is a great source of important nutrients, of good proteins and micronutrients, and everything about it. But of course, it cannot replace balanced diet. It should be really used as to supplement your diet, to add variety to your diet. It's really nutritious and good food for you. But, certainly you still need to eat plenty of different veggies and different fruits and healthy proteins and nuts and seeds, and, of course, drink plenty of water. And, maybe a spirulina snack once in a while. That will be great.
Thanks, Samantha. And now we're doing something very special. We are going from the very north, Sweden, to the very south, Australia, because that's where the ISS is right now, 400 kilometers above the fifth continent. Sweden, please go ahead.
My name is David, and how much spirulina is needed to provide oxygen to one person?
Hello, David. It's an interesting question. Of course, I wouldn't know, but the smart Melissa scientists have done the math, have done the calculations, and so my understanding is that you would need about 15 liters of spirulina grown in an optimized bioreactor, or if you were just to grow it on a flat surface, then you would need about 10 square meters. So it's quite a lot.
Thanks, Samantha. And here comes the second question from Sweden.
Hello, my name is Emilia, and my question is, water is of course the most important things for us humans. Is the water on the ISS recycled, or is new water sometimes brought to the station?
Thanks, Emilia, for your question. Sometimes we do get new supplies of water just because we recycle, but we cannot recycle with 100% efficiency. There are always some little losses. But mostly we recycle everything. So, when we pee, when we go to the restroom, the urine is recycled, and it turns into perfectly potable water. And of course, all the condensate, for example, when we work out and we sweat, that evaporates in the atmosphere, or when we breathe out, all of that humidity is also scrubbed from the atmosphere here in the cabin, and it's also reprocessed and turned into potable water. Or for example, when we sort of take a shower with a wet towel, we leave those towels out to dry, and that water also goes into the cabin atmosphere. That's also scrubbed and recycled. So we fully recycle water.
Thanks, Samantha. That completes the first trip through Europe, and we start back again with Greece for the next question.
My question is, do microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, grow inside the space station as a result of lifestyle and health conditions? And if so, how do microbes behave? The same as in Earth conditions?
Hello, Georgios. Thanks for your question. It's very interesting, actually. It's something that we pay a lot of attention to. Of course, it's inevitable. You have humans living up here, and it's inevitable that there is a little bit of microbial growth. However, we really manage this and keep it under control. First of all, by verifying, by measuring periodically. Once every month or so, one of us is tasked to go through the station and take samples of the air and of the different surfaces that are considered maybe more prone to develop a microbial charge, and then those samples are returned to the ground, and the ground can analyze and make sure that we're not having a big microbial charge. And then, of course, for microorganisms that would be really dangerous and bad for our health, we really periodically check and make sure that they're not there at all. But yeah, it's interesting. And then, your second part of your question, how they behave. We know that there are some pathogens, so microorganisms that cause disease, that have been studied in weightlessness. And the interesting thing is that they become more virulent. In a way, they become more dangerous. And that is even more a problem if you think that on the other side, the immune system of living organisms on board, and of course of astronauts, is compromised on board. We're a little bit immunodeficient immunodepressed. So you have this combination of an immune system that is less efficient and pathogens, so microorganisms that cause disease that are actually more aggressive and virulent. So certainly something to keep an eye on as we learn to stay in space for longer and longer times.
Thanks, Samantha. And that gives us time for another question from Crete.
Hello, I'm Susanna Kokaraki, and I am 15 years old. My question is, how do you deal with the leakage of pollutants in a space station?
So, Susanna, another interesting question, and really something that we pay very good attention to, especially in planning the stuff that comes up here and the hardware. We have teams on the ground that looked at the hazards and the safety aspects of all of that. So all the substances that come on board are like labeled with a toxicity level. It can be a level 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4, depending how dangerous they can be if they leak out. We do not have a lot of dangerous materials on board, but we have some that could cause some damage. Of course, every time that you have something that could be dangerous for the life of the astronauts, they are contained. Sometimes with up to 3 levels of containment, to make sure that they do not leak out. And then, of course, as astronauts, in case something really strange happens and they do leak out, we are trained to respond to what we call a toxic spill in the atmosphere, in the cabin atmosphere, and we have personal protection equipment on board, like dust masks and goggles and different kinds of gloves and different kinds of absorbent materials that can help us contain the spill. And of course, if needed, we have an emergency button, which is specifically for that, that tells everybody on board and also the computers that there has been a toxic spill, and one of the immediate responses is to stop all the ventilation on the space station so that we are not spreading this dangerous substance throughout the station. All the ventilators, the fans stop immediately.
Thanks, Samantha. And we still have time for a few more questions, hopefully putting also in Sweden, but we start with Belgium now. Please go ahead.
Hello, I am Louis Dubois, and I'm 40 years old. My question is, do you think it is possible to survive on Mars with food and oxygen from a Spirulina reactor?
Hello, Louis. Well, one shouldn't put limits to imagination. So, if you can imagine this, then potentially maybe you can build it. Maybe it will not be the most efficient technology, but it's certainly one path of research. There is a lot of work to be done to turn Spirulina bioreactors from purely research facilities into something on a bigger scale that can actually support human life. And that's the interesting thing when you're doing research and technology. You're going down a path, and you're going to see if it works and if it's the most efficient way of doing things, and then you adjust along the way. So, of course, I am not sure if that's going to be what's coming at us in the future, but it's certainly an interesting path to explore.
Thank you, Samantha. And the second question from Belgium.
Hello, I'm Marie Builen. I'm 13 years old, and my question is, what did you study to become an astronaut?
Hello, Marie. Well, as I'm sure you know, there isn't like a university faculty in becoming an astronaut. You have to choose a career that you're interested in, that you're passionate about, and then at some point, if you've done a good job, then you will be qualified to apply for the astronaut corps and see if you're lucky enough to be selected, as I was. But of course, the paths that are more likely to bring you to an astronaut careers in terms of university studies are, of course, studying science or math or engineering or medicine. And besides that, a lot of astronauts are also pilots. Many of us are military pilots. Some of us have a career as test pilots. So those are a little bit the paths that can bring you into this career. Me personally, I studied engineering, mechanical engineering with a focus on aerospace, and then I became a military pilot in the Italian Air Force.
Thank you, Samantha. That brings us back to Sweden. Please go ahead.
My name is Anna. How do plants grow in space? Do they grow straight up as on Earth?
Hello, Anna. Actually, they grow pretty differently, and that is because they do not sense gravity. Because up here in weightlessness, you cannot sense the effects of gravity. On Earth, there is a mechanism or an effect called gravitotropism, I believe, something like that. So there are mechanisms in the roots of the plant and in the plant itself. They make them feel where the gravity vector is, so that roots typically grow towards the ground, right? Now, in space, as I said, they cannot feel gravity, so they get a little bit confused. A lot of times they grow roots in a spiraling shape. So it's very interesting, and there is a lot of research going on to understand those mechanisms better. I mean, we have known for quite some time that this is what happens, but nowadays we have the possibility of doing a lot more detailed research at the cellular level, at the molecular level. What are actually, at the cellular level, the mechanisms that, the signals that are missing in space and that are so important on the ground that allow plants to grow roots on the ground towards the Earth. It's interesting both for future growth of plants in space, but it's also very, very interesting to understand better how plants grow on Earth, and so that we can improve our technologies in agriculture and grow more food more efficiently, so that we can feed everybody on the planet. We are quite a few people on our spaceship Earth right now, and we need to feed everybody.
My name is Lova. Would a bird be able to fly in microgravity?
Thanks for your question. It's very interesting. So I am told that yes, birds can fly in microgravity. It has been tested on parabolic flights. However, of course, kind of like plants, they would be a little bit confused. I think they would probably fly upside down or not know exactly where up and down is. And I assume that they would adjust. I'm not sure. It's not been researched yet, but maybe one day you can write your own proposal for research on the space station with birds. It would be very interesting, and I personally would love to have some singing birds in the morning when I wake up.
Thank you, Samantha, and that leaves time for one more question, which is coming from Greece. Please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Stelios. My question is, how does lack of gravity affect the astronaut, metabolism, physical fitness, etc.? And what implications does this have in their nutrition?
Hello, Stelios. Well, this is a very interesting question that you ask, and the answer would take a long time, because the more we stay in space and the more we realize how our body is adapted to live in 1G, in gravity on Earth. And when we come up here, everything is thrown a little bit out of balance, is sometimes compromised, certainly affected. The most obvious effect, one of the first things that was observed, is a loss of bone mass and of muscle mass, just because you do not have all that mechanical load on your skeleton, and your muscles are not working that much, and so your body sheds bone mass and muscle mass. It would be nice to be able to tell the body, hey, I'm going back soon, so I need that, but it doesn't work like that. But then we've discovered, as I mentioned before, that the immune system is affected. We become immunodepressed here. We've discovered that our cardiovascular system, our heart, our vessels, our blood vessels are affected. We are starting to study, for example, respiration. There is an ESA experiment that has just started which is called airway monitoring, that looks into how the gas exchange in the lungs is affected by microgravity. That is still ongoing. It has only started, but I am sure that we will find that even respiration is affected. Recently, we have discovered that our eyes are affected, and unfortunately, people sometimes suffer some vision loss when they are in space for a few months. So it's fascinating, and as I said, all the research we do on human physiology will help us do space exploration in the future, but it's also giving us so much insight in how our body works. So we're basically learning a lot at different levels, at the cellular level, at the tissue level, at the organ level, at the system level, and then the whole body. And then just briefly, of course, you mentioned nutrition, and that is a topic that is very dear to me. It's very important, especially when you are in an environment that, as I mentioned, is challenging, like up here in space, to give your body the right fuel, the right the food, so that food gives the right message to the cells of your body to keep in shape, to stay healthy and functioning as well as possible.
Thanks, Samantha. And we just get information that we can go on for a little longer and hopefully can get Belgium and Sweden still on the line. So Belgium, please, your next question.
Hello, my name is Ludwig. I'm 12 years old, and my question is, what time do you use in space?
Hello, Ludwig. It's a question I get a lot, and the answer is pretty simple. We use what we call GMT, or UTC, Universal Time Coordinated. It corresponds to the time zone of London, of England, not right now, but during winter time. And it's a little bit of a convention. We could really use any time. It doesn't matter as long as we agree that now it's 8 o'clock and in an hour it's 9 o'clock. I think it's been chosen because it's a little bit halfway between Russia and the United States. So the U.S. and Russia are the main partners of the International Space Station, and there are two control centers, one in Houston, one in Russia, in addition, of course, to the Columbus Control Center in Munich, and the Japanese Control Center in Tsukuba, and our Science Control Center for the U.S. in Huntsville. And so the GMT, or UTC, is a little bit halfway, and it was kind of a compromise.
Thanks, Samantha. We go LOS in 2 minutes, so a very quick question from Sweden and a quick answer before the closing remarks.
My name is Julia. How do you think we will produce food for longer space travels in the future?
Julia, thanks for your question. It would take a lot longer than the minute we have, and of course I would be speculating. I do not know. I'm not necessarily an expert in this particular field. What I can tell you is that it is fascinating, and you guys have done a lot of work and study on the Spirulina project, and in general on this topic. You probably know more about it by now than I do, and maybe you will be intrigued and by this, and you will choose it as your career, and maybe you will come up with the answer.
Thank you, Samantha. This closes the Q&A session, and we are ready for your final words.
All right, it's been an incredible pleasure talking to you guys. I know I've only talked to a few of you, but and I've really felt how incredibly prepared you are, how much you have worked on this topic. I'm sure that you have had some fun at it as well, and I hope it will inspire you to keep studying science and engineering, and maybe pursue a career in space. And it was a pleasure to having you up here on the International Space Station. Keep working hard and having fun. And by the way, Taxi says hello as well.
Thank you very much, Samantha. And if you allow a personal remark on my side, please say hello to your crew, especially to Scott and Mikhail, who have to stay there or have the pleasure to stay there for quite some time. And with that, all the best to the 6 of you up there.
Will do so, Gerard, and thanks for supporting this wonderful event. I know it was hard.